Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network. Ken Hunter, the guy who introduces the show, said, I've covered the outdoors for more than 4 decades. Well, that would mean that I would be an old guy. And that can't... Well, no, wait, I actually am an old guy. More than 4 decades covering hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping. I started out at a local television station in the Saginaw area. And this whole concept of, well, first it was News 5 Outdoors, and then Outdoor Magazine kind of grew and evolved and changed. It went from television to television and radio. And then from radio, we got rid of television, went into radio, now a lot of social media stuff. It's hard to be in the communication business these days if you're not involved in social media. Love it or hate it, and I share both emotions depending on the day. It's a great way to reach people. So when I look at, I don't know, my career in the beginning, you know, the way I covered stories, the types of stories I covered, the technology I used to cover those topics, man, things have changed. The world has changed. Our outdoor experiences have changed. Now, the passion is still there. The love is still there. I mean, not just me, but our outdoor community as a whole. For most of us, the outdoors, again, hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, is more than a hobby. It's more than a pastime. It's a way of life. It's how we define, in many cases, who we are. But how we enjoy those activities has certainly changed. Pick your passion. Pick your addiction. Technology has, I was going to say invaded, but that's a negative connotation. But the way we use technology these days, I think does it make us better hunters and anglers? I don't think so. Does it make it easier to be proficient? Absolutely. Does it shorten the learning curve? Absolutely. But what does it come down to? Whether we use all the tools and technology and gear and gadgets to pursue our outdoor passions, or whether we go old school, it doesn't really matter. The goal is the same, just to get outside, get out in the elements, experience Mother Nature. And by that, I mean, you know, get cold, get uncomfortable, get soaked in the rain. Any little thing to take us out of our daily comfort and our daily bubble of living in the world we live in today. A lot of us are stuck in the shop most of the week, stuck in the office most of the week. A lot of people are on a computer screen these days. So anything to get out in a situation, in an environment where we no longer have immediate control over what's going to happen. And by that I mean, if you're sitting at a computer screen or on a tablet or a phone or whatever, and you click a button or you swipe, there's an immediate reaction. That device does what you want it to do. So it gives you a sense that, okay, I have some control over something. When you get outdoors, when you get on the water, when you get in the woods, when you start chasing critters, when you start chasing fish, you no longer have that control. You can't control the weather. If you want to go fishing one day and you're relying on a light southwest wind and you get a hard northeast wind, you've either just got to stay home or you got to deal with it. You got to get underwater and adapt. If you're deer hunting and you're waiting for the perfect conditions and Mother Nature throws you a curveball, there's nothing you can do about it. And it can be frustrating, yes. But isn't it also somehow liberating in some weird way? That you're giving up control to this bigger overall experience. There's a lot of things you can do to increase your chances of having a deer walk within range. But can you actually make it happen? No. Can you take a school of walleye that have decided to suddenly become lockjaw? Can you make them bite? No. Can you encourage them in some ways? Yeah, but can you make them bite? No. And that's what I love. And I think that's why so many people, that and the fact that it is such a part of our outdoor heritage here in Michigan, not just as a state, but in our own families. A lot of us grew up in hunting and fishing families. It's what we did as a family. I look at my own family. I spent the closest times with my dad out on a boat, bobbing around on Lake Michigan, trolling for salmon. You know, those were the times when he would let his guard down a little bit and relax a little bit. He was a cop for 35 years. So he would get out there and he could relax, he could breathe, he could talk, and we would talk. And it's hard to get those types of experiences sometimes in our day-to-day world. For the first time this entire summer, as I sit here in the studio behind this mic, I have not gone fishing since we last talked. I know. That's what I'm saying. How did that happen? Well, a couple of things. Well, for one thing, we're doing a little time shifting here in the studio. I'm getting ready to go to Ontario on a bear hunt, so we moved this show up a little bit. But you know, you talk about day-to-day life and your job and work and stuff. I'll be honest. Much of the last few days in my house have been getting ready for a garage sale. I know that's not glamorous. I know that's not outdoor related, but it's just one of those things that you have to do once in a while, whatever it is, that gets in the way of your outdoor activities. So you combine that with the fact that I'm getting ready for this bear hunt, and we've only had a few days since I recorded the last show. I haven't been out. And I will be honest, I was starting to get a little bit, I don't want to say bored, because I don't think I ever get bored when I'm outdoors. Maybe a little bit complacent. You know, I've spent several weeks hitting it hard out there on the angler quest, chasing those Saginaw Bay walleye. And I love every minute of it. But there came a point where, you know, you do it week after week after week, and it doesn't get old, but maybe it loses a little bit of its appeal. Now, the first time that board goes back and there's a nice walleye on it, that all goes away. But I didn't realize I would miss it so much just after a few days. Man, am I going to be jonesing by February. Now, I'm not done with my fishing. No, I'll get back out there. But it's going to be after I get back from this bear hunt in White River. As you are hearing this show, I'm either probably on my way up to White River or I'm there. And if you're listening to the podcast version of the show, I probably have started the hunt. I'm going up there with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters. Now, this is a guy I've hunted with, well, Ron, or his previous partner, Pete Jones of Superior Bear Outfitters. I'm thinking it's been 15 years now. And it's something that I have really grown to love and look forward to, because by the middle of August, as I say, I've kind of had enough fishing for a little while. And usually in the middle of August, it's so hot and so muggy down here, I can't wait to drive 8 hours north up into Ontario, where hopefully it's going to be a little bit cooler. I did hear there's a real good wild berry crop this year, which is not good. I haven't checked the moon cycle yet. I should. I have a feeling it's going to be close to a full moon. That's not good. I don't like hunting anything on a full moon, but the berry crop should hurt, because if the bears have all kinds of natural food, they're less inclined to come into baits. Now, Ron's been doing that for a long time. These baits have been established for a long time, so I'm confident that we, the hunters up there, will see bears. I'm confident I will see multiple bears. As I said last week, I'm not necessarily going up there to shoot a bear, though, which is a really weird statement for somebody saying I'm driving, 6, 7, 8 hours, taking a week out of my schedule to go bear hunting, and I might not shoot a bear. But I might not. I might wait and concentrate on harvesting a bear and my Michigan hunt at the end of September. Either way, it's going to be a great hunt. I'm going to try to get some good video of bears. I love interacting with bears. I love being up close and personal to bears. I mean, your baits are only 10 to 12 yards from the blind. You're on the ground level. It's all exciting. If you want to follow my adventures, I'll be posting on my Instagram page and my Facebook page as well, Mike Avery Outdoors. Please feel free to check in and see how that's going. In the meantime, I've got a radio show to do. Coming up on this week's show after the break, Mike Gnatkowski, a charter captain and outdoor writer, checks in from the west side of the state. Then Matt Taggett of REK Broadheads, Michigan-based, family-owned REK Broadheads. I'll be shooting REK Broadheads when I go to Ontario. In hour number 2, Captain Dave Engel of Best Chance 2 Charters, one of the most well-known and respected captains on the lake. Nick Green of MUCC. This week's Ask Avery segment. How do you get a copy of your hunter safety certificate from 40 years ago? And then we'll wrap it up in the third hour with Amy Trotter of MUCC and, of course, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That's this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan, including WZTK in Alpena. That's 105.7 FM. Let's go to St. Joe, WSJM 94.9 FM. Let's bounce north of the bridge to the Yoop. Let's go to Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine, speaking of north of the bridge, is brought to you by Rapid River Knives. I have, as always, a Rapid River Knife Works knife in my pocket right now. But I'll be honest with you. I let it get a little bit dull. I didn't stay on it like I should. Chris Durson says that's the main thing with your knife. There's no secret to putting a good edge on your knife. He said you just don't let it get dull. Well, I let mine get a little bit dull. So I'm actually thinking about, and I go to White River, and I mean, this would be a few hours out of my drive, but stopping by the shop there in White River and letting those guys put a razor edge on this thing again. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us is the website. These are handmade pieces of art designed to be used. They're beautiful. You could put them up. You could put them in a case above the fireplace, and they'd look great. But you would break Chris Durson's heart. He says these things are tools designed to be used: pocket knives, skinning knives, fillet knives, kitchen knives, axes, hatchets, you name it. The folks at Rapid River can help you out. Again, the website, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us. And the showroom is just outside Rapid River on US 2. Stop by and say hi. I told you in the first segment that, how, real briefly, how my career has kind of evolved and changed a little bit. But one thing has stayed consistent. The format may have changed in my communication. The venues may have changed. The technology, the tools, the gadgets, all have changed very much. But what I have depended on throughout all of these years is finding the right people to talk to. Because I, the big guy, Mike Avery, admit to not being an expert in anything. I don't know enough about hunting and fishing to tell you tips and techniques and advice. But I have been around long enough to know who to go to, who to talk to. Mike Gnatkowski is one of those guys. He's a charter captain. He's an outdoor writer. His first article was published back in 1976. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Mike, welcome back to the show. How have you been?
Morning, Mike. Pretty good.
I'll take pretty good. So what's going on in your world?
I'm working on getting some of my images on stock photo sites. It's a way of preserving them and maybe generate a little income, and that way my kids will have those. And I've got like 30,000, so it's kind of a meticulous venture. But it's starting to provide some dividends. I have lots and lots of images that aren't hunting and fishing, so this gives me an opportunity to possibly place them somewhere and make a dime on them or something. So we're doing that and doing some remodel on the garage and writing as many articles as possible so I can screw off this fall.
There you go. Mike, how does this process work in today's digital world? If you've got a beautiful image and somehow it ends up online, I got to believe somebody's just going to steal that and use it. How do you protect that? How do you let people know it's yours?
Well, you can watermark them so they have your brand on them, kind of, or, you can put them on there in a lower resolution so they're bad enough that nobody wants to use them, or you can just state the fact that they're copyrighted, but I constantly do searches under my name just to see where my articles are coming up, because people take my articles and just use them on a website, and think they're free because they're on the internet, and they're not.
Yeah. It's a great way to get your product, your thoughts, your ideas out, but it's also a great way for people to steal them.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. There's an implied copyright called First North American Serial Rights to any image or article where they're entitled to use it one time if you sell it to them, and then they can't continue to use it. There's a lot of magazines that think because they paid once for it that they're entitled to use it on their website and everything too, and a lot of times that's not the case. The writer or photographer retains the rights to those images.
Mike, you've had an interesting career. I'm thinking about your fishing, a charter captain out of Ludington. I fished with you for walleye on the Tittabawassee River years and years ago. You moved out west to work for, was it Cabela's or something like that? You came back to Michigan. What's your passion these days? Are you still chartering? Are you still guiding?
No, I haven't done any chartering since 2008. The housing crisis put an end to that. We sat down and started looking at the potential for making money, and it just wasn't there. And, I kind of laugh at anyone that wants to get in the charter business. My friend used to say, if you want to make a small fortune in the charter business, start off with a big one.
Yeah.
A big fortune. So, in 2008, I just saw the handwriting on the wall, and it turned out great. I would have never been to Sidney, Nebraska, or Cheyenne, Wyoming, had I not taken that opportunity. Got to experience a lot of things, and then got to take a bunch of these images that I'm now putting on these stock photo sites. So it was a good move, but I missed Michigan, mainly because of the water.
And have you had a chance this summer to get out much?
Not a lot. I learned something interesting last week. At one point last week, Saginaw Bay, Lake Erie, and Lake Michigan were all 75 degrees.
Well, it is, and I can tell you for a fact, Saginaw Bay was 75. But what does that mean? It sounds to me unusually warm for Lake Michigan, for one thing.
I don't think it's unusual. I've seen it warmer than that, but I think it means that Lake Erie and Saginaw Bay are cool this year, and that's why the fishing's remained good on the inner bay. Those fish have no reason to go anywhere. They got food, and they're 75 is probably within that range where a walleye's metabolism is really in high gear. So I don't know. It just kind of struck me that was kind of strange to have all of them the same temperature.
That is. It's actually pretty cool, too, and it has made the fishing on the inner bay good for this late in the summer. And wasn't there a day, it's been a few weeks now, you were fishing with Mark Martin, and I didn't see you, but you saw me up in my beloved Skinny Water.
Yep. In June, I was over there fishing with his school, and this is the one where guys bring their own boats, and then pros go on there, or Mark's pro staff go on to the boats and point out things that they need to do to catch more fish. And I was with some guys from Pennsylvania who had just bought a Crestliner and had the boat there, and I assumed that they would have the one requirement for catching fish, and that's rod holders, but they didn't. So, and then they had a tree, but the rod holders were pointing in all different directions. I said, well, where's your Allen wrench to adjust those? And they go, oh, it's back in the truck. And so the first day was kind of a cluster. And then the next day we got things straightened out with the rod holders, and I brought a bunch of my rods, and we caught some fish, and they learned a lot. And the next day they were able to do it on their own.
Well, that school sounds like such a great learning tool. And, you know, we kind of take it for granted. When you set up a trolling boat, here's what you need. But if somebody hasn't done it before, I get it. They don't know. They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah. The first day we only caught 2 walleyes, and they were thrilled because they were their first 2 walleyes ever.
Oh, nice.
On their own boat. So they were thrilled. And then the next day, I think we caught 9 and a couple pike and a bunch of the other stuff. So they were thrilled with that. And, yeah, they said, we learned so much, you know, from you these last 2 days. You know, and it's things I kind of take for granted, but then, you know, because you've done it for so long, but then, you know, you point out, you know, these things, and sometimes it sinks in.
Well, apparently with these guys it did, and, you know, I wish them nothing but luck. But it sounds to me like you're kind of looking forward to fall.
Absolutely. Fall means, well, you know, August here is salmon time, so I'm trying to do a little bit of that, and went on a charter out of Ludington a week ago or so, and, you know, it was really quite rough, but we caught some fish and had a good time. So I'm looking at getting back up there. August is kind of my favorite time because you can catch those fish sometimes in really skinny water with, you know, a smaller boat, and I want to get up there and do that this week if I can. But this fall, I'm almost doing something I've had in my bucket list for years, and that was to not be home in October. And I've got a pretty good start. I'm going to go up and see Mark and fish for a few days, and I'm going to Montana and then North Dakota. So as long as I got my lab Samson with me, I don't need to be home.
You're going bird hunting. If you're taking your lab, You're going bird hunting.
Absolutely, yep. He's turning 5 this year, so he's starting to really come around, and I'm excited about it.
5, that would be, he's just reaching his prime, his peak, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you knew this dog, it's been trying because he's kind of hyper, but in the last year he's calmed down tremendously, and he's taken, you know, the obedience training good, and he's always been a good hunter and retriever if you could control him, and, you know, it's getting to that point where he's under control, so it should be fun.
This whole process of getting a new pup and turning him into a hunting dog, I'm fascinated by this. Do we as people actually teach these dogs to hunt, or do they know this naturally and we just have to teach them how to hunt with us?
Yeah, they already know that. Yeah, I mean, my son just got a new lab, so he's going through the process, and she was 10 weeks old not too long ago, and she was retrieving in the water at 10 weeks old. So she knows what to do, and it's just obedience. You know, sit, stay, come, heel. And if they do that, they know how to do the rest.
You make it sound so easy.
Well, it's 10 minutes a day. You need to spend 10 minutes a day with them working on those things, and you'll end up with a good hunting dog if you do that.
And what's the lifespan? I mean, we hate to talk about this, but how long is a good hunting dog going to be around with you? And of that lifespan, how many years can they hunt? And towards the end, they're just kind of watching you go out the door, I think.
Yeah. My last 3 labs have lived to 15, and 12 and a half.
Wow.
That's quite old for a big dog. You know, and their prime hunting is, you know, 4 to 9 or 10 maybe. And then they start, you know, going downhill a little bit. So, yeah, it's prime time for Samson here in the next few years. I'm just hoping I can keep up with him.
There you go. Hang on, Mike. I got to take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine show. We're talking with Mike Gnatkowski. You can learn more about him online at Nat Outdoors, G-N-A-T, Nat, like Natkowski, Nat Outdoors. Do a search for him. You'll find him there. A guy I've known for a long, long time, had a lot of great conversations with. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about what is on Mike's list for this August. He gave us an indication, but we'll delve into that and more right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Traverse City on WTCM. That's 580 AM. You can hear us in the Thumb, WMIC in Sandusky, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Boning Archery, Michigan-based Boning, a leader in the archery industry for more than 3/4 of a century. That is so impressive to me. I mean, they've been in the archery industry since Fred Bear. You know, those days, the early days. Roland Boning invented ferrultite to glue broadheads to, at the time, what were wood arrow shafts. These days, Boning continues to innovate, come up with new products, new manufacturing processes. As I head into the field this late summer and fall, I'll have Boning products, and most target archers or bow hunters do. I would encourage you to check out the website boning.com. That's BOHNING, boning.com. A great Michigan company, been around for a long time. Mike Gnatkowski hasn't been around for 3/4 of a century, but he's been around for a while. He's been around the outdoor scene as a charter captain, a fishing guide, an outdoor writer, an outdoor photographer, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Mike, as you look forward to the fall, I know you're talking upland bird hunting. Are you a waterfowl hunter too?
Absolutely. We're going to be out there September 1st. I hunt with my son Matt up towards Scottville and Ludington quite a bit, and then these trips I'm making west, we'll be doing some waterfowling, not so much in Montana, but definitely North Dakota. And it kind of ruins you for hunting Michigan anymore. I'm seriously considering just giving up duck hunting because it's pretty frugal compared to hunting out west.
Well, a lot of bird hunting here in Michigan is not to the standards they have out west. I'm thinking of ringneck hunting, pheasant hunting. That's tremendous. It's crazy out there.
Yeah, well, we don't have the habitat anymore. You think about it, where I used to hunt pheasants, there's Fashion Square Mall, so
Yeah.
you can't grow pheasants on asphalt. That's a proven fact. So there's just not the habitat. And what's out there is so, it used to be a solid 40-acre field, and now it's 5-acre plots with subdivisions on it. And you just can't, and I know these guys like Ken Dalton, try to make an effort to get them reestablished, but I don't think it's possible, really. And so I just go out west and hunt them while I'm out there. And Montana is a sleeper for upland game. And, we're going to be shooting pheasants and sharp-tails and huns all in the same trip. So you just can't do that too many other places.
Well, one thing we can grow lots of here in Michigan is, you call them geese, I call them big flying rats, and I say shoot all of them you can.
Yeah, there's lots of geese. And I think that's part of the problem with the downturn in mallard numbers. Mallards have gone from 500,000 in the Great Lakes region to 150,000 now. And they really don't have a handle on what's causing it. But, if they don't have the nesting habitat, if geese and swans are taking it over, then, their numbers are going to go down. The only duck that's doing really well in Michigan is wood ducks. And the forests in Michigan have matured, and there's lots more cavities for them. And then, of course, the wood duck nest box programs that conservation clubs and Boy Scouts, do has made a huge difference. So wood ducks are becoming the most popular duck, or not, maybe not most popular, but one of the most popular and maybe the most common.
Wow. Will you be hunting sandhills while you're out west?
I have, but I don't think we'll probably be doing it. But I have hunted them before in a couple provinces and a couple western states. So
what is that like? What's that like?
The bird?
Yeah, the hunt, the birds. I mean, a lot of people wishing we could hunt them here in Michigan.
Oh, yeah. Well, our numbers are building, and the times I've hunted, I haven't hunted them over decoys. It's been mainly pass shooting, but they have a habit where if they're feeding in one spot and then roosting another, they'll take that same path. If you see one flock fly over it, then the next flock's probably going to take the same path, so you can get underneath them and pass shoot them. And but you can hunt them over decoys too, I guess.
Well, when I see them out there in the fields, they look like a good-sized bird.
They're deceptive because they're mostly legs and wings when you get them, but they're very good eating. And I doubt that we'll ever have a season for them here. You got too big a lobby against it, and same with doves. I've dove hunted in numerous states, and 80% of the doves every year die anyway. But it's a very good resource, and you can hunt them everywhere but Michigan almost.
Well, that one I put on the hunter's shoulders. I mean, we caved on that, and that we had a dove season. We let it go, and I agree with you. I don't think we will ever see one back here in Michigan, and I don't blame the antis because we know where they're coming from. That's what they do. In the case of the doves, I blame the hunters. We didn't stand up and support it.
I think you're right.
Well, listen, Mike, always a pleasure to check in with you. I wish you lots of fun this late summer and early fall, and let's talk again soon.
Yep, we'll do that. I'll check in and tell you about my adventures.
I'll look forward to that. Mike Gnatkowski, you can learn more about him online at natoutdoors.com. That's natoutdoors.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll wrap up this opening hour with Matt Taggett of REK Broadheads, REK, Michigan-based, family-owned REK Broadheads. They came on the scene here, just a few years ago, but they're making a big name for themselves. And I'll tell you what, the world of broadheads is not an easy world to get into. You're fighting the big corporate conglomerates, and they're a small Michigan-based, family-owned company doing a great job. Their website, rekbroadheads.com, rekbroadheads.com. In our second hour, we'll talk with Captain Dave Engel of Best Chance 2 Charters, Nick Green of MUCC, and this week's Ask Avery segment. So a lot coming up on this week's show. That's right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK. That's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain on WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. I can't say enough about Linwood Beach. They're in a great spot there on the west side of Saginaw Bay. They have great people, great facilities, great service. I don't know what more you can ask. I mean, really, really good, solid people that I enjoy working with, and I think you would enjoy fishing or camping or getting your boat serviced out of Linwood Beach Marina. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Speaking of Michigan-based, family-owned companies, I would encourage you to check out REK Broadheads, R-E-K. REKBroadheads.com is the website. Matt Taggett is the guy, one of the guys behind REK Broadheads. And I will be, as I head to White River, Ontario here in a few days, I will be shooting a REK Broadhead. I put one of those through an Ontario bear last year, and to steal a line from Uncle Ted, it left a blood trail Stevie Wonder could follow. It was very, very impressive, and I'm looking forward to shooting their heads here this fall. Matt, welcome back to the show. How are things going?
Good, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great, The fall hunting season is right here in my windshield now because I'm heading north. But how are things going with you guys? I see you came out with a new fixed blade.
We did. We came out with the FX4. It is a 4-blade fixed head. Man, this thing has really taken off the last month or so here. I think people are starting to switch gears and think about bow season, and this has become a very popular head, and there's a couple of YouTube videos that showed some tests that people really liked, and it's they're flying up the shelves already.
Well, I encourage people to shoot your broadheads as soon as you can. I mean, yeah, you got to practice with your field points to get dialed in, but then start shooting your broadheads. But my question is, like in my case, I'm shooting your expandables. I've got your practice points. Do they fly like the broadheads do, Matt?
They do, and that's what that practice point's designed is to mimic the flight of the expandable head that I believe you're shooting your Ontario bear with there.
Yeah.
But these new 4 blades, we did a lot of testing on different cut diameters and blade widths, I guess. And we went with a 1.125" main blade, and then you'll notice it has a 3/4 inch bleeder blade on it. And the reason for that is for better arrow flight. And we get pictures sent in quite often of these things matching right with field points. So they're designed to be absolutely accurate, and there shouldn't be any tuning or sighting your bow in difference from your practice points to your broadheads.
So
that was our goal.
So at this point, for now, you've got the one expandable and the 2 fixed blade heads, right?
That is correct.
And I bet, I don't know this for a fact, but I bet there's always something in the works there at REK.
Oh, there is. There's a very lengthy product lineup that we have future plans of, and we're still a small company, still in the infant stages, so we're taking things one step at a time here. But we have big plans and want to head in a larger direction.
How does a small Michigan-based family-owned company compete with these great big corporate conglomerates that have several companies under their umbrella and more resources than God? How do you guys compete with those folks?
It sure has been tricky. We don't have the advertising budget as some of the larger companies, but we're doing it for the right reasons. We're bow hunters at heart. We want to design a quality product that speaks for itself. We want something that doesn't fail, and we're just going to kind of grow our company on that basis. And we're doing some of the small events throughout the country. I know we're heading to Kansas City here in 2 weeks, just kind of on the road tour, promoting along our way. And I think it's just a big word of mouth thing, really.
Well, word of mouth is huge, though, right? Word of mouth and social media these days. If you can get the right people shooting your products, have good luck with them, and they want to promote you and support you, that does a lot.
It really does, and social media is almost the new way of advertising. I know there's a lot of different avenues, but we're able to reach so many people through social media, and that's been a big help. I know, like on Facebook, we have been kind of banned from running ads just because we're considered a weapon, but just people that support our product get on there and share the stuff, and it's really grown quite a bit in the last year.
Well, I wish you nothing but luck, Matt. I'm excited to get back out there using. I'm going to stick with the expandable. I think I'm shooting the crossbow again this year. I'm going to stick with the expandable, but I'm keeping a close eye on your fixed blades too.
Yeah, it's hard to beat the cut of that expandable. I seen the blood trail that bear in Ontario last year had, and that's one of the nice things. That large cut makes it easy to follow.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, Matt, good luck to you. The website, rekbroadheads.com, rekbroadheads.com. And I would encourage people to check you out. And have a good season, Matt. We'll check in again, I'm sure.
Thanks, Mike. You as well.
All right, appreciate that. Matt Taggett of REK Broadheads, Michigan-based, family-owned REK Broadheads. I say that because I like to let people know that. I think it's important. I think it's important to know who is based right here in our state and what companies are family operations. Because I'll tell you what, if I have a choice between working with a Michigan-based, family-owned company and somebody out of state that's owned by some big company, you know who I'm going with. REKBroadheads.com, REKBroadheads.com. We'll take a break here for the top of the hour. When we come back, Dave Engel of Best Chance 2 Charters. You heard Mike Gnatkowski talking about this is salmon fishing season. It is. We'll get some insight from Dave, then Nick Green of MUCC. And this week's Ask Avery segment, how do you get a hunter safety certificate from a class you took 30, 40 years ago? You can, and I'll tell you how, coming up in hour 2 of Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, heard on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. By now, you know why I'm saying this. I'm saying this to make the distinction between radio and podcasting. I love podcasting. But I want to encourage you, if you can, to listen to the radio show on your local AM or FM radio station. You get your local news and weather and sports, even your local commercials. Maybe there's a sale you want to take advantage of. Plus, the radio stations get the content of the show before the podcast version is uploaded. As I say, podcasting is a great way to get the message out, but there's really something unique about a statewide syndicated outdoor radio show. But isn't it nice to know that the podcast version is available if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, the broadcast footprint, as we call it? You can hear the podcast version on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, on my Facebook page, Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, you know the list, even on YouTube. Anywhere you can hear your podcasts, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. I also do monthly podcasts for offshore tackle, Angler Quest boats, primal tree stands, and polar craft boats as well. So check that out if you would, please. I would appreciate it. So it's August now. It's the middle of August. What does that mean? Well, what it means is summertime is starting to wind down. As I've said every week here for the past few weeks, please do not let the rest of this summer get away from you. I know it's going to start getting busy. I know the kids are going back to school. I get it. But again, when it gets to be February and it's cold, there's snow outside, you're going to look back and go, oh, I wish I would have done this. Don't let that happen. For a lot of people, August means salmon fishing. Big fish. Big numbers, close to shore. Dave Engel is a guy who's been around, well, the fishing scene in Michigan forever. He is one of the captains of Best Chance 2 Charters. Again, one of the best known fishing teams and charter services on the Great Lakes. I've been trying to get in touch with Dave. Well, I've been in touch with him, but I'm trying to find a day when he wasn't on the water, where he could talk to me for weeks now. And we just happened to sneak in a few hours this morning where we can talk for a few minutes. Dave, always a pleasure. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Mike. I'm doing great.
You just texted me a picture, too. What's that all about?
Well, we had the big tournament over the weekend here in Saugatuck, and it was the final leg of the dual port, and we had a lot of success this week.
It looks like you did. Tell me about tournament fishing. How is that different from taking clients out on a charter trip?
Well, Mike, I'm unique in that situation. All my tournaments are done with charter clients. These guys, I always charter in the tournaments. We typically do well and would, probably do the same with or without with them, but what we do is they charter the boat for the weekend. We split, they pay the expenses, and we split whatever we win. So it's worked out well over the years for the customer. Like this weekend, we won about $15,000. So they get about $7,500 back from their 3 days of fishing. So it's going to work out pretty well for them.
I bet you don't.
They did well in South Haven. They've chartered me 3 times this year, and we've been in the money all 3 times. So it's great. It's a guy with his 3 kids. I mean, there's nothing better than having those 3 sons for him out there on the water and enjoying it. And everybody loves to take the kids fishing anyhow. That's what our tournament's all about here in Saugatuck. We call it a fishing tournament, but it's actually a fundraiser for our Salmon in the Classroom project.
Oh, that's neat.
That is, the state of Michigan offers it to schools that you can have a dedicated teacher. She has to actually go and get trained. They give them eggs, and then you raise them in an aquarium in the classroom as a science project. So we promote that. It's very expensive. It started when it started. We've done it for I think 15 or 16 years here in Saugatuck through our Saugatuck Sport Fishing Association, and it started out costing us like a couple grand, but I think we're up to like $5,000 a classroom. They typically do it with 5th or 6th graders throughout the state. But we take it one notch further here in Saugatuck. Not only do they raise it and get introduced to our sport and get to do the science of it, we all get together and take all the kids from the Saugatuck School out fishing on one day. We usually do it the third Tuesday in May, and fishing's usually good then here. And they all go out. It's amazing. Kids live a mile or two from the lake and never been on the lake. So it's a great experience. I think we had 69 this year kids we took out with, I think we had 16 or 17 boats. And everybody got to catch fish. Then we bring them in and we cook all the fish. And so they have a fish fry, and then we give every one of the kids a Shimano rod and reel when they're done. And our motto is more tackle boxes, less X boxes in the classroom.
Oh, man, I love everything about that event and everything about that story. Congrats.
Yeah. So this is how we do it, is at this fishing tournament, we have big raffles. The community, of course, sees all these kids going, and that, a lot of people have their kids, or grandkids or whatever it may be. So we get a lot of gift certificates and a lot of sponsorship. We earmark the money for that program, and at this tournament's where we raise all the monies to support this throughout the year. It also pays for our net pen project. For people that don't know what the net pens are about, again, the state of Michigan will allow you to bring them to designated rivers where they're going to make plants. This year we got 105 salmon here, or king salmon here in Saugatuck. We kept them in a net pen for anywhere from a week to 3 weeks. It's depending on the weather and the water, and but it lets the fish get out and almost double in size by us feeding them every day, and then they imprint our river so that they return to that river in 4 years. So it helps the health of the fish, for survival, because they double in size. We let them go at night so the prey can't get them as easy. The birds and the different stuff can prey on them and get them during the day, so we let them go at night. And it's, again, that takes some organization. You got to buy the nets, you got to bring the pens, you got to get everybody together, lift them in, put them out, and all that. And that helps pay for that as well. So this tournament is more than just a tournament. And then if you get lucky enough to win it, it really is a lot of fun. So, we pay a lot of places. We had a lot of amateur boats. We had 46 boats this weekend here in Saugatuck.
When I think of Lake Michigan salmon ports, Saugatuck is not the first one that comes to mind.
Well, I would agree. We don't have very good facilities for, and compared to other harbors that have, great boat landings and extra dockage and all that stuff. But we do have a great river. The Kalamazoo River has, great current flow. It is really, really clean river now. Years ago, we had a bad rapids for the paper mills and stuff, but that ship has sailed. The water is the cleanest it's ever been since they've been monitoring it. We got a lot of trout streams that are tributaries into the river, so that we have a lot of natural reproduction of fish. So, it's a great thing for our area and our community.
But you don't limit yourself just to Saugatuck, though, right? I mean, you'll travel up and down the coast. You'll follow the fish.
Yeah. Well, I followed the tournament circuit, which strategically they have the tournaments in their ports at the best times of year, or try to. We started out in Michigan City. We were third down there. Then we went to St. Joe. Then we went to South Haven. We won South Haven this year. Then we go up to Grand Haven. Muskegon, Ludington, Manistee are all up the lake further, done them all, won them all, over the years. It's great traveling. But in recent years, the fishery, and not so much this year, but the fishery's been better in the southern part of the lake than the northern, just the opposite of the way it was for many years. The northern part of the lake, late in the summer, was the spot, and it's kind of getting back there for the Kings.
Well, and you would know. I mean, you've got more experience out there on that water than most anybody else out there.
Well, 43 years I've been a captain, Mike.
But your experience on the water goes back even farther than that.
Oh, yeah. Saugatuck is an old commercial fishing village, just like a lot of places. My grandpa ran a fish market here in town. When I watched some of these guys cleaning fish at the fish clean station, he'd have a stroke if he saw the way they cleaned some of those salmon. You could read a newspaper through the fish when my grandpa was done filleting one. So, yes, I've been on the water since before I knew. As my wife has described to her friends, my husband is a professional outdoorsman. He's never really had a real job.
Oh, I'm laughing because I've heard similar comments coming my direction.
Sure. Yeah, there's no rich charter boat captains out there, Mike. They strictly do it for the love of the sport.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy talking to you, Dave. Hang tight. We've got to take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. We are talking with Captain Dave Engel of Best Chance 2 Charters. The website, bestchance2.com, and T is T-O-O, bestchance2.com. When we come back, I want to talk to Dave about this late summer, this August salmon fishing, about reading the water. That's what he is so good at, reading the water, and lots more coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Tawas on WIOS, AM and FM. 1460 AM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS, 1320 AM. And you can hear us in Manistee on WTIQ, 1490 AM and 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Brenton USA Hunting Rifles. AR style. Now that gets people's attention right there, right? The AR style rifle has gotten lots of bad attention lately from the media. But I say it so many times. A gun is just a tool. It doesn't matter what style the rifle is. If you think about it, an AR is actually a very effective style of hunting rifle, and Brenton makes high quality, very accurate AR-style hunting rifles, and they make them in Lansing. How cool is that? I'm going to use, for the first time, a gun on a bear hunt, on my Michigan bear hunt, coming up at the end of September. I have a Brenton USA rifle in a 350 Legend. And as soon as I get back from Ontario, I plan on spending some quality time with that gun to get to know it, to get it sighted in, to feel comfortable and confident with it, and I'm very excited about it. If you want to save $100 on a Brenton rifle, go to their website, BrentonUSA.com, that's BrentonUSA.com, and use the promo code Avery, and you can save $100 on one of these rifles. That's BrentonUSA.com. While you are online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And then head on over to bestchance2.com. That's the website of Captain Dave Engel and Best Chance 2 Charters. Dave has been on the water his entire life. His family has been on the water as commercial anglers and now charter captains as well. So, Dave, my question for you, the first segment, the second segment here is, there's a lot of water out there. How do you know where to start? How do you find fish in August on Lake Michigan?
Well, we have something going on out there we haven't had going on in a long time, Mike. There's an extreme amount of bait fish again. It was a huge concern of the DNR. We had several meetings about it. They cut the salmon plants because they did not want to crash the food chain in Lake Michigan like they did in Lake Ontario, or Lake Huron, in Lake Huron. They feel that they overplanted it because there was a lot more natural reproduction than they knew. So now we've got a lot of bait going on, and that was always the secret. Well, if there's bait, there's fish. The way we find the bait most of the time is on thermal break or on the temperature through a fish hawk or some type of probe. But what's really become easy now for the new, younger generation, or I guess it's any generation, is we have these buoys throughout the lake, which you can go on to and know the water temperature before you ever leave the house in the morning. If it's gotten cold or warm, you know what the temperature is every 10 feet, like in Port Sheldon's, the one we use here, Saugatuck, or South Haven's buoy, will both pop up. And we can tell if the water's cold or warm. So that's what we fish around. We fish around that thermocline. We fish all the way as cold as it gets, because we'll catch lake trout off the bottom. But we fish up as high as the water breaks, which is usually, once you get above in the high 50s, you're usually out of the game. Now, with all that said, what you were just describing here coming up in September, we'll catch those kings out of temp because they're adults and they're going up that river. If the moon's aligned and the water's colder in the river than it is in the lake, they go right up. If it's about the same, then they trickle up. So it's mostly around water temperature and, of course, if you know the area. But as we've described, we spend all spring down in the southern part of Lake Michigan fishing around the power plants and the steel mills and that stuff because the water's warmer. Then we spend the rest of the season trying to find cold water. And if we're fishing around steelhead and coho, a lot of times they're right on the surface because they'll eat insects. They eat a lot of bugs. They have a lot of flies, a lot of stuff. We catch coho all summer out of temp with little red dodgers right on the surface fishing out there when we're running our rods 100 down. You'll catch a coho or two a day or whatever. They catch an extreme amount across the lake. The Wisconsin side, that's all shale rock, for 3 or 4 or 5 miles offshore. And it holds a tremendous amount of bait. And those coho have learned to go right from the Frankfurt right straight to across the lake and live there for 18 months that they're in the lake and then back over and up our rivers. So we supply a lot of fish for other states. A few years ago, Indiana had 120% return on their plant. Well, we all know that's not possible. So, we know where these fish are going, but it's made for, a multi-state and a multi-fish, fishery. So, depends what we're targeting, and you can only do what you can do. We got to Grand Haven this year. The water was really cold. The king fishing was the best it's been in that tournament, maybe ever. We filmed a TV show. Came over and filmed with us. We had 30 fish in an hour. The guy says, "Man, I didn't think it was going to happen this fast." I go, "Yeah, well, that's the way it is." And they were all small, young fish. So we got a lot of nice fish coming. It's always good to catch. Right now we're catching lake perch here. Our perch fishery just got going from St. Joe to Saugatuck here. Mostly down south is better, but there's no small perch. There's there are big, 12, 14-inch perch. Great for catching. That doesn't do you much good in a couple of years from now. So we like to see small fish, even though, it's not what you're targeting.
What about the size of the kings this summer?
Well, exactly as the DNR predicted, if they reduce those plants and didn't plant them, Jay Wesley's told me, he says, the worst scenario is your fish will get bigger. He goes, if we're wrong, the fish will just be bigger. Well, they have, it's still, Lake Michigan is still a huge experiment. Even though it's been going on since the 60s, they don't know how many fish the lake can hold. But it's an ongoing, always changing environment with all the invasive species. The quagga mussels are what caused this whole problem. They're filtering the water and getting the bottom of the food chain sucked down to where there's nothing for the baby fish or the alewife and all the feed fish. There's nothing for them as well as baby fish. Baby salmon go right to the middle of the lake and sit out there all winter, and that's where they're at, is out there on top. So when the lake doesn't freeze over, they grow better, if it's open water, and there needs to be food out there for them. Even though you're 500 feet plus, there's still food out there on the surface for those fish. Right now, we're seeing a lot of bait fish, half that distance, in a couple hundred feet of water is where we fished all weekend, and that has been going on up and down the lake for some time right now. That's kind of where they're stuck. It's where the thermocline breaks, and there's a great fishery, going on out there.
It used to be in the old days, you'd run downriggers, maybe some dipsy divers, spoons, J-plugs, and you were styling. It's changed a lot these days, hasn't it?
Well, it's always changed, Mike. That's what you remember when we started. Remember when you got your first J-plug? You went from using a shyster or a daredevil and, kind of trying to catch a salmon to, getting some salmon design equipment. And, but yeah, copper line, pulling stuff way back. We're moving up and down different water columns. For sure, we didn't reinvent the wheel here using spin doctors and flashers and stuff. That's, that was all copied from the West Coast, but the majority of that stuff is made here in Michigan or made locally. Every harbor has a fly tire. Everybody's using flies behind them. I took that stuff to Alaska in June. I've gone there many years to port protection. If anybody watches the reality show, a guy from town's had a house there 30 years. He's actually the one that introduced me to the Bahamas and up there. And we roll herring like they like to do up there. And after a couple days, you're allowed 1 king salmon a day, 2 for the year.
Wow.
So, it's a big deal. Now you can throw them back. Well, after a couple of days of fishing, I just started, brought some of our stuff from here in a chrome spin doctor with a Mirage fly. It was absolutely, we caught, his daughter has been going since 1978. She went with us this year. And we got to get fishing license, and the guy says, do you want a king salmon stamp? Because it's $50. She says, no, I don't want a king license. I said, you have to get one. She goes, I've been coming since 1978, and I've never caught a king. I said, well, you're going to this week, honey. And we did. We caught 24 kings, that she got to catch, that we released. Like I said, you can keep one a day. We had tremendous, king fishing. So everybody always asks me, does that stuff work other places? Absolutely. It worked wonderful up there for us. But, we tried a lot of stuff till we found that combination, and that's what they like up in that area.
And you think about Alaska, some of the best fishing in the world, and they can only keep 2 kings a year, and we can go out and catch 3 a day here in Michigan. I mean, that says a lot about our fishery.
Yeah, we're actually allowed 5.
5.
So, yeah, we're allowed 5, and we get them a lot. Yeah, and the guys, when 20 years ago when I first started going up there, I'm kind of thinking like you're talking. So you catch a king. I wasn't interested. I wanted to catch halibut, and we caught some giant halibut up there. That's my fish that I go for. And the guys, they're trying to, well, you're supposed to be the hot shot guy. They go, how many kings do you catch in a day? They're all excited. We catch a couple. And, I'm kind of ho-hum about the whole thing. And they're like, well, how many do you catch? I go, we catch about 20 or 30 a day, pretty much every day, And they're like, well, why are you up here? And I'm like, well, not the kingfish. I'll tell you the truth. But, they do have big ones. They get them in the rivers. If you want to catch a over 40-pound fish, you have to go there, and you have to probably catch it in the river, not out in the ocean trolling.
Well, weren't you? I'll rephrase that. I was absolutely shocked when we broke the Michigan state record for kings last year. I didn't expect that was going to happen.
Nope. That was, the year that it was set, prior, we all caught fish that were 40 pounds. I say all. I know multiple people, on the scale in fishing contests, and it never happened again. It was a phenomenon, where the fish got really big for whatever reason. He probably grew all winter, excessive bait, and all the things that go with it. But we're seeing a little trend of that again. You better, if you're going to win in like today's contest, there were lots of 25 to 30-pound fish caught. So, it's not such. The fish are back, and they're big, and they're healthy, and that's what they predicted.
Yeah.
And this natural reproduction fish, is doing really, really well. The nice part about planting them is they can medicate them and stay ahead of the curve if something happens. Like when we went through BKD back in the 90s.
Dave, listen, you and I could talk. We could talk this for hours, but I am out of time. I got to let you go. Captain Dave Engel of Best Chance 2 Charters, bestchance2.com, bestchance2.com. One of the best out there, one of the most experienced of anybody. Check him out, bestchance2.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. You can hear us in Caro on 2 stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. And let's go north of the bridge. Let's go to Escanaba, the Riviera of the North. WCHT AM and FM, 600 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Versa Skins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why spend a bunch of money on different camo pattern hunting clothes when you can buy one good set of Versa Skins and snap on and zip on the outer liner? The website versaskins.com, versaskins.com. They're going to be at the Woods and Water Show in Imlay City. What is it, the 8th, 9th, 10th? Whatever that weekend is, you can check them out in person there. The website versaskins.com. I want to turn our attention now to MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs, Michigan's premier conservation organization, in my opinion, and a group that I am a member of. Nick Green is their chief information officer. He's also editor of the Michigan Outdoors magazine, and he joins us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line now. And Nick, you got so many irons in the fire, but I want to talk about a project right now. This is a big year for MUCC, isn't it?
It is. We are celebrating not only our 85th anniversary, so one of the oldest statewide conservation organizations in the nation and the largest, but we're also celebrating our 75th anniversary of Michigan Outdoors magazine.
Wow. There's a lot packed into that statement right there, Nick.
There is. So a lot of folks, they kind of remember and resonate with Michigan Outdoors and the TV show and the magazine. So we are really excited for this upcoming issue for the fall. You'll be able to buy it on newsstands September 1 to kind of take a look at where we've been, where we are, and where we're headed. And we really look back on iconic editors like Ken Lowe, like Dennis Knickerbocker, who are recognized nationally as wonderful and great outdoor editors who kind of changed the face of outdoor writing. And we're fortunate in Michigan to have had those folks lead our premier publication. So it's something we're very proud of.
Well, and something you should be proud of, Nick. Once you took over at the helm of the magazine, you changed the face of it. You changed the look, and you really, in my opinion, I think you improved it.
Well, thank you. I think, when I came on, we were at that point where we were trying to figure out how to engage some younger members, and that really required a little bit of transition of the magazine and what it looked like and what we talked about and who was featured. And we had a little bit of pushback initially because folks don't like change, understandably, but it didn't take long for them to kind of start to see the storytelling come back into the magazine. And I think that's what grips people. We can't deliver 24/7 news on the drop of a dime just because it's a quarterly magazine. But what we can do is tell your stories and Michiganders' stories through the lens of outdoor writing and conservation, and then tie that back into those very important conservation issues that MUCC and its members work on. So it's just been a great vehicle for our kind of conservation delivery in Michigan.
And again, how do folks get this big 75th edition?
This one, they will have to go to newsstands. By the time this airs, it will have already went to the printer. Mm-hmm. But newsstands, Meijer, CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, Rite Aid, J Sporting Goods, various locations. You can go to MichiganOutofDoors.com, and there's a tab that says newsstands. Click on that. It's interactive. It'll show you where the newsstand is closest to you.
And listen, as long as people are on that website, why not sign up? Why not join the organization too?
Yes, you can also subscribe. So if you subscribe, you will get each quarterly issue in your mailbox, and you'll get a discount off of the newsstand price. And like I said, it'll come right to your mailbox. You won't have to go to the store to get it. So you can go to mucc.org, join, or you can go to michiganoutofdoors.com, subscribe. It'll take you to the page you need.
When you talk about reaching a new generation of outdoorsmen and women, you got to look at social media, right? But that's a whole monster in itself. I mean, you would need a staff of a dozen people working full-time on social media to be able to cover everything. How do you, as a small staff, how do you accomplish that?
I think we pick and choose the issues that we think are important and matter. In this day of influencers, as you know, you've spanned the gamut of radio, TV through decades. We're in a day of influencers where folks are truly trying to find a unique and authentic voice to listen to. And I think Michigan Outdoors has continued to try to be that. So we really carefully pick and choose our issues so that folks see us as authentic. And when we talk about something, it's something we're knowledgeable about and want folks to engage with.
Well, Nick, I think you guys do a great job of that. And I do want to mention here, coming up in our third hour, you and I did not talk issues this time as much as we normally do, but coming up in our third hour, I give you a little break. Amy Trotter, Executive Director of MUCC, I've got some time set aside for her. I want to go into some of these issues as much detail as she can. I realize some of these things you guys can't talk about, but we'll talk with Amy in the third hour. And Nick, I always enjoy checking in with you every week or so, every other week. And again, I would encourage people to join MUCC and to get this issue of the magazine. It's going to be a really special one.
It is. Thanks, Mike, and thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure. Nick Green of MUCC, MUCC.org, MUCC.org. By the way, if you want to join MUCC, sign up to become a member, like I have. Go to the website, MUCC.org, use the promo code Mike, all caps, MIKE, and sign up to become an MUCC member, and you can save 25% on your first time signing up. How cool is that? Again, Amy Trotter, Executive Director of MUCC, joining me in the third hour. But first, we're going to wrap up this hour with this week's Ask Avery segment. How do you get your hunter safety certificate if you took the class years ago? Well, guess what? There is a way, and I'll tell you right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Port here on WPHM 1380 AM. And you can hear us in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. Plus, you can hear us in the Sioux on News Talk 1400 WKNW. I'll be traveling through the Sioux here in just a couple of days. By the way, good morning to our friends in the Sault Ste. Marie Police and Fire Departments. Appreciate what you guys do. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week, the last segment of the second hour, brought to you each week by my friends at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union can help you with your next outdoor adventure because they love to work with outdoorsmen and women. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way this works is this is your chance to get involved in the content, the programming of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. You can send a question directly to me, something you would like me to try to answer. You can send a question you'd like me to get in front of MUCC or DNR or the feds or whoever. Maybe somebody that I can reach that you haven't been able to. The best way to get these questions to me is just send me an email. There are so many social media messaging platforms out there, but they tend to get lost. If you want to reach me, do it the old-fashioned way. Send me an email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And that's actually what a buddy of mine did, Craig Plowman. Now, Craig was fishing with me recently, and he set a new precedent. He set the bar pretty high. As he got onto the Angler Quest, he gave me a box of cigars. Really good cigars. Now, I'm not saying that if you fish with me, you're required to bring a box of good cigars. But it doesn't help. So, Craig, you got that going for you, buddy. Anyway, he can call me, he can text me, he can talk to me in person, but he followed directions. He sent me an email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The second part of this email, now for the Ask Avery question. He says, I was poking around on Google and found out if you log into the DNR website, go to Licenses and Permits and click on the Certification tab, you can retrieve a copy of any safety course you've taken. Now, that's a big deal because, like, if you go out of state, they're going to ask for your hunter safety course. You might want your boater safety certification, whatever. This is a big deal. So the way you do this is, I verified it. You go to the DNR website, michigan.gov/DNR. You click on the Buy a License tab. From there, you click on the Purchase a License Permitter application. Then you sign in. In my case, I sign in using my ID and my birth date. That'll take you to a tab of licenses. Now, it sounds complicated, but it's not. If you click on the Certifications tab, just as Craig says, oops, I got to log in again, and it brings up my hunter safety certificate. This is dated 1972. Now, I don't think this is an accurate date because mine would be more like 68 or 70. And Craig's, in fact, and he's a couple years younger, his is also dated 1972. But this allows me to pull this up, view it, email it to myself, reprint it, to send it off anywhere I need. From 1972, and actually it's more like 68 or 70. So how cool is that? If you have an old hunter safety certificate that you need or anything else, go to the DNR website, sign in, log in, search the certificates tab, and you can find the old, in my case, hunter safety certificate. It doesn't look like it's the actual real certificate. It looks like it's like some intern. They sent some intern through the records some summer and find everybody who has an old hunter safety certificate and update it. But it's there. It's valid. Michigan.gov/DNR. How cool is that? And Craig Plowman, buddy, thank you for figuring that out, finding that, and then asking the question on this week's Ask Avery segment. He's got another question here that we're not going to get into today, but it's dealing with the consent decree negotiations. That's a big deal these days, right? We will delve more into that in our third hour coming up with Amy Trotter of MUCC. I want to talk consent decree negotiations. If you don't know what that is the talks with the tribes about how many fish are they going to take versus the licensed sport fishermen, among other things. We're going to talk with her about Proposal G, Sound Scientific Wildlife Management, the DNR, the MUCC, all that good stuff. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So again, thank you, Craig Plowman, for sending that question about getting a replacement safety certificate, hunter safety, boater safety, whatever it is. Go to the DNR website, michigan.gov/DNR. That's michigan.gov/DNR. Check that out. And thank you, of course, to my friends at Security Credit Union for making the Ask Avery segment possible. Go to their website, securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. They love to work with outdoorsmen and women. They love to work with people like us, ensuring or working with your all outdoor. For your next, best way to put it, they want to help you enjoy your next outdoor adventure. securitycu.org. Again, if you want to send me a question, send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. In the subject line, please put Ask Avery, and that way it makes it easier for me to sort through and keep an eye on them. My website, by the way, mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mikeaveryoutdoors.com. My email address, once again, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Do not hesitate to reach out with your Ask Avery questions, your comments, your criticisms, your concerns, your suggestions. mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Hour number 3 coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. Appreciate you being along with me this week. As the summertime season continues to slip away, again, please do not let this summertime go without taking advantage of it. I know things are going to get tight now, right? Labor Day is looking at us. It's coming at us like a freight train. The kids are going back to school. The grandkids are going to get busy. I get it. But if there was something on your list for this summer and you didn't do it yet, there is still time. Please, I don't want it to get to be the middle of winter when it's cold and there's snow and it's blowing and you think, man, we just should have done that. We should have taken that fishing trip. We should have made that camping trip. We should have gone up north. Do it now. Do it now. Take advantage of it. Our state has so much to offer. Is it perfect here? Of course not. But I've been blessed to go some pretty cool places and do some pretty cool things, and I'm always looking forward to coming back here. Dave Engel, Captain Dave Engel, in our second hour, was talking about going to Alaska to fish king salmon, and you can only take 2 a season. We can take 5 a day here. I mean, we've got some tremendous resources. But there's a lot going on in our state. Behind the scenes, politics, wildlife management. I don't care who I talk to in our state or whatever issue, whatever hot issue comes up, whatever big issue comes up, there's one name that is always part of that conversation, and that name is Amy Trotter. Amy is the executive director of MUCC, and it seems like she's got her hands in everything. I don't care if it's consent decree negotiations, if it's sandhill cranes, if it's wolf management. Amy is somehow involved in that. She's very well respected, and she's a very hard lady to get in touch with, at least for a radio interview, because she's got so much going on. But guess what? I managed to get her for some time today. She's on her way up north. She pulled the car over, and she's talking to us. And Amy Trotter, I do certainly appreciate it. How are you?
Certainly, yeah. I'm here today live from the Jay's Sporting Goods parking lot, actually.
You said you were going to stop at Jay's. I bet you spend some money before you hit the road again, too.
I expect so, yes.
Amy, tell me, how did you get to this point? I mean, how did you get to a point where it seems like you're involved in everything conservation and wildlife management in our state?
Well, I have been with MUCC now. I just celebrated my 15-year anniversary here with MUCC. But MUCC's been doing this for 70 years before I started. So we're 85 years young this year. So we've always had our fingers on the pulse of everything in the outdoors. And certainly nothing's changed. The issues actually even seem to remain the same over the course of time, but certainly different and new emerging issues all the time, but some things never go away, like wolves, for example.
But what is your background? Is you a wildlife biologist? Are you a policy, political scientist? Where do you come from?
My degree was actually environmental science, so I took basically one of everything. One fisheries, a couple wildlife, a couple forestry, economics, so some of the policy issues as well, communications. So I took a little bit of everything, which, helps me kind of cover the gamut when it comes to this, but really there's nothing that can prepare you for working at a place like MUCC because you just have to learn on the job. You have to, when feral swine was a hot topic here in Michigan, you just have to become an expert and you learn what's going on in other states. You understand, you read about it, and then you see how you can address it when it comes to a policy and management decisions here.
You bring up feral swine. Did that end up being not the threat that we thought it was going to be, or did hunters and folks, were they able to knock down the number more than we had expected?
Our early intervention in the state of Michigan has made all the difference. I mean, we've been talking about this for probably at least 12 years, if not longer. And it's really the policy decisions that we made long ago to call them an invasive species and treat them as such, which has helped us stay ahead of the curve, unlike other states that let it grow to such a proportion that now all they're doing is damage control, whereas we were able to get ahead of it before it became a problem. And that's the important thing with any invasive species management, is getting ahead of it before it gets out of control. So we did what we needed to do. It was tough, it was hard, it was controversial, but we took action early on, and that's why it never got to the, what we've seen in other states.
So what are the big issues we face these days?
Well, certainly wolf management is, as I mentioned, never going away. That is something where I've been serving for the last 10 months on the Wolf Management Advisory Council. The DNR did just put out a draft wolf management plan, an update to the last two that they've put together. MUCC reviewed it. We took issue with some of the things. Some of the things were great that they incorporated from our recommendations on the advisory council, but some of them they did not incorporate. And so we put together some public comments. They're available on our website. And, it remains to be seen if the department is going to change some of the language they use and some of the recommendations accordingly. But we definitely think it's moving in the right direction, but still some things in there that just aren't necessary, we feel.
I know MUCC has no control or authority over this, but in your opinion, are we ever going to have another Michigan wolf hunt?
Well, I think, again, that's in the federal court system right now, so that's something that we have very little control over to be able to affect it. But I definitely see if we can get them off the federal endangered species list, we are well poised to have management activities be able to be conducted here in Michigan. The plan calls for it. The plan does use the terms, though, socially responsible, which we really don't like to see in a scientific management plan. We're not asking for aerial gunning or anything like that are not considered socially responsible. We want to be able to have hunters be part of that management solution, and that's really what we're aiming for.
You bring up a very interesting term, and actually it's coming up earlier in our conversation than I had expected, but I can't let it go. Socially responsible. I am really bothered with this whole concept of social science becoming a bigger factor in what should be sound scientific wildlife management. It seems to me that social science is becoming accepted as part of the formula for putting things together.
It certainly is. And for some management decisions, it really isn't biological. I mean, the decision to wear hunter orange, for example, is totally a social reason. It's a public safety reason. There's very good data to say why we use orange as the chosen color. But that's not necessarily biological in nature when we talk about those things. But definitely we have to ensure that everything we're doing is rooted in scientific wildlife and fisheries management, and that we are, by and large, thinking of the resource first. All things being equal, there may be some methods of take that certain people have preferences for or don't choose to use. And we believe that, again, if you're allowing, for example, the harvest of a fish, the method you use may or may not impact that population specifically. But what if it impacts all the other fisheries or the opportunity for others to harvest that fish? And so those are the kinds of questions where social science can play some kind of role when there is a net biological neutrality, I guess, to it. But absolutely, I agree with you. It is not, and Proposal G said that it should not be ballot box biology. We should not be doing popular votes on how we harvest things or the kinds of seasons that we choose to have.
Did you ever think that this many years after Proposal G was approved, voted in by the people of Michigan, that we would still be having a conversation about Proposal G?
I really didn't. I mean, I knew we had some cleanup to do, and we did that through our 2014 citizen initiative that added in fisheries into the NRC authority. It was really written as a wildlife related statute in the 90s, and we updated and expanded that authority. We made sure that the NRC has authority over naming new game species, something we probably also maybe didn't contemplate, long ago as other species have recovered. But so I'm never going to say that we don't need to refine and take a look at some of our legacy and historic conservation policies, but yeah, I didn't really think I'd have to actually defend it here 25 years later now.
Hang tight, Amy. We're talking to Amy Trotter, Executive Director of MUCC. Their website is mucc.org, mucc.org. Amy, she's always got a smile on her face, She's always willing to help out and to give her time whenever she can, but she's pulled so many different directions. She's working on so many projects, and most, if not all, of these projects are very important to the hunters and anglers of Michigan. More on that after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. And you can hear us in Ludington on News 97, 98.7 WLDN. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard as they have for me. They were over trimming the trees the other day, working on the water feature in the backyard, a water feature that they put in, by the way. They always do a great job. They are very conscientious. They do wonderful work. And I have people say, hey, who does your lawn, your property there? It looks great. Well, it's Reader, readerlandscaping.com. Check them out. While you are online, please also check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. and MUCC.org. MUCC.org is obviously the website of the Michigan United Conservation Clubs, also called MUCC. In my opinion, Michigan's premier outdoor publication, the magazine, and just outdoor conservation group. I appreciate the fact, even from my perspective, whose job it is to try to keep track of such things. It can be absolutely overwhelming to try to figure out the subtleties, the nuances, even the course of direction. Where are things in the process? Where do they go next? And my first call or my place to reach out is always MUCC. Help me figure this out. Amy Trotter is the executive director of MUCC. She's very good at figuring these things out. She has a real knack for policy and specifics and details and making sense of them. And Amy, that's one of the things I've always really appreciated about you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
We mentioned Proposal G. I want to go back. For folks who don't know what that is, let's not lose them. Let's go back. What was Proposal G?
Well, 25 years ago now, in 1996, there was actually another proposal, Proposal D, that was seeking to outlaw some forms of bear hunting here in Michigan, the use of dogs and the use of bait, which would effectively limit bear hunting in the state. And as a counter proposal to that, we said, no, we're not going to get into the business of allowing or banning certain methods of take. We want science to be the driver, and we want the Natural Resources Commission to be basically the jury, looking at all of the science, looking at the information, and making decisions in a bipartisan fashion. So the Natural Resources Commission is the authority that makes our fish and game regulations. They are a 7-member organization. They are required to be bipartisan, no more than 4 people from any one party. And they are appointees of the governor. And then they advise the DNR also on a variety of issues, even beyond fish and wildlife. Well, so they meet every single month, and there's an opportunity to talk to those decision makers.
A lot of people think, though, it's the DNR who makes all these decisions.
That's true. And, that is something that we really want to empower the Natural Resources Commission, because we don't want to vest all of the decision-making in a singular person, the DNR director. We want to make sure it is a broader, diverse group who has diverse interests and opportunities to talk to the public before making those decisions. It's 7 members instead of 148 in the legislature, so it is a little bit more manageable than the day-to-day policy process for creating state laws. But we believe that it is important to have this commission-style government. And because it is so accessible, they meet every month in person. Anyone can sign up for public comments. You can communicate to them via email, via phone, have conversations about issues on the agenda, and then also, offline, talk to them about what's coming up on their agenda and how you can weigh in best in the kind of information they might be, seeking out.
So what role does the legislature play in all this? Can they come in and make a law that just supersedes the DNR and the NRC?
Well, technically, yes. But we do our best to really try to stay true to that Proposal G authority. So when it's an issue of hunting or fishing, like that manner and method of take, the quotas, the how manys, the wheres, all of those things that we really need natural resource professionals and the Natural Resources Commission to be the decision maker in those. We try to keep those out of the legislative process. They always get introduced, but again, we do our best to try to say, thank you very much, legislature, for that input. Let's talk to the commission about this. And then the way that the legislature can do that is through the form of a resolution. So they can actually formally communicate to the Natural Resources Commission, and they have done so on the issue of wolves, sandhill cranes, and probably a variety of other issues, where it's not a state law, but it is a strongly worded communication, a resolution that is directed at the Natural Resources Commission, urging them to take an action.
You bring up sandhills. Again, I know it's not under the authority of the MUCC to make this happen, but I think you guys have come out in favor of a sandhill hunt. What's your gut feel? Is that ever going to happen?
Yeah, we are definitely working on it. We have kind of a list of stakeholders that are very interested that have reached out to us, and we started talking to them really about the process. So we do need the department to play a role here, because they have to formally ask the federal government, because these birds are protected under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. There does have to be a request made to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service once, and they will. We have a strong feeling that they will approve something like that, because they've done so in other states in our flyway. Then we can have the conversation about naming them a game species and creating a season. But we do have to have all of our information gathered, and we have to acknowledge that we are a breeding population here in our state, and so we do have to be cognizant of what we do in our state can affect the whole flyway. But that's not any different than a lot of other waterfowl species and other species that we hunt. So we believe that we can do that. We can manage things very scientifically and still be protective of the resource and sustainable, because that is the most important thing. But we have a lot of sandhill cranes here in the flyway, and in fact, we have exceeded goals for many, many years in terms of what we believe should be the population for the flyway. So we do believe that we can sustain a hunt. It's just a matter of getting the motion here in order and getting some momentum behind that.
All right, let's talk consent decree negotiations. And this is the talk with the tribes about how our fisheries are divided up. I know that there are certain things you can't say because I know there's a gag order, and it's also my sense that that's getting very frustrating to you folks, because maybe that's being used as a tool to kind of manipulate how this whole thing is viewed by the public.
That is true. So our frustrations are showing in a real way now, and you can follow along on our Facebook page or on our website. But we did file. MUCC is part of a coalition to protect Michigan's resources. This is a separate 501c3 that we help with, and we are on the board of. And that coalition did file to petition the courts to allow us to be an intervener in the case. After years of negotiations, we are frustrated by the state of Michigan's representation of the recreational fishers out there. So whether it's charter boats, the Steelhead and Salmon Fishermen's Association, Hammond Bay Anglers, and MUCC, We have been frustrated by the pace of the negotiations and also the representation from the state of Michigan. So we want an equal seat at the table. That is still in the court system. There have been certainly objections to us filing as an intervener. And then we have actually just last week issued a rebuttal to those concerns. So it is still kind of in the courts in filing motions. All of those motions are available and public, but they don't get into the meat of what everybody wants to know, which is how much fish and where and when. And those are the things that we can't talk about, right, unfortunately.
Well, if you were happy with how things are going, you wouldn't be doing this. So that says a lot right there.
Correct. Our interest really is in preserving the recreational fishing opportunities in the Great Lakes. We believe in the 50-50 shared allocation of these resources. But again, we can't let these kinds of actions, which could stay in effect for 20 years. The last consent decree now has lasted 22 years. And we don't want to be beholden by an agreement that could have repercussions many, many decades from now in terms of our recreational opportunities.
Amy, before I let you go and hit the road again, I guess every time you and I have a conversation, it always comes back to you looking at this, you being MUCC. How does this affect Michigan hunters and anglers? That's the crux, it seems to me, of what you guys are about.
And the resource. So I don't want to lose track of
yes, thank
that,
you.
Certainly.
Yes.
The habitat is very important to us. We're working on wetland issues and water quality issues as well. So I don't want to say that we are only about one thing. We are about the natural resources and our outdoor heritage.
No, I appreciate you making that distinction. I'm going to let you go in on the Jays now, but I don't want you to spend too much money in there, okay?
Well, I can't promise that.
Actually, spend all you want, Amy. Always a pleasure. Listen, have fun, and we'll check in again soon.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much.
Amy Trotter, Executive Director of MUCC, the website MUCC.org, MUCC.org. And what we need to do is we kind of got off track. We had a schedule for Amy to join me on my Wednesday Night Live 4 times this year, once a quarter. We got the first quarter in, and the second quarter kind of slipped by. So we're going to get those back on track, get her back on where she can spend some time with us on the Wednesday Night Live so you can ask her questions as well as sitting here and listening to me ask her questions. So I will be talking to Nick Green, and we'll get that put together. And I will let you know. By the way, if you want to save 25% on signing up to become an MUCC member, here's how you do it. Go to MUCC.org, MUCC.org. Use the promo code Mike, all caps, and you can save that 25%. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, well, I'll start to work up wrapping up this week's show with a few more thoughts, questions, comments. And, of course, we will officially wrap up the show with wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar coming up in just a few minutes right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. Glad to have you along with us. You know, you can hear the show on something like 33 stations across the great state of Michigan, including in Holland, WHTC, AM and FM. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. You can hear us in Muskegon, just up the road, WKBZ, 1090 AM. And you can jump over to the other side of the state in Saginaw, WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now, as I always am when I record the show. They are very gracious in letting me borrow a small corner of the building for 3 hours each week. I'm here with Pat Johnston, who's doing a wonderful job as always. Pat, I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. This segment of Outdoor Magazine, and it's interesting timing. I say this segment brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website. That's MUCC.org, MUCC.org. And I say it's interesting because I just had Amy Trotter of MUCC on the show. In fact, I had Nick Green on earlier. It's not that I am... Well, let me rephrase it. I do support MUCC. I think they do a very, very good job. Do I agree with everything? Absolutely not. But wouldn't it be kind of weird if I did? It's kind of the same thing of you listen to this show, I have people say, Avery, I agree with most of what you say, but not all of it. Perfect. That's what I like to hear because it means that you're thinking about it. It wouldn't be right if any of us agreed with any or every organization or person or, you've got to think these things through and come up with your own thoughts. Yes, I agree with most of what that person says. The rest of it, I think they're a clown or whatever. Whether it's me or, I'm not going to say MUCC in that light, but I think they do a great job. And I am a member of MUCC, and I support most of what they do. And I do think they do a great job. And the thing about MUCC is if you don't agree with them, they are a member-based organization in that there are several opportunities for you as a member to affect MUCC policy. And we've seen that in the past. An MUCC member will come forward with an idea, and it'll become embraced by MUCC and championed and spearheaded and maybe even become law. And I think, of course, the bottle bill is the one that everybody uses as an example, but I think the repealing Michigan's minimum hunting age, if I remember right, was brought up by an MUCC member going through that path. And, of course, it then became law. Now, I had an idea as an MUCC member that hasn't become law yet, and that was the elimination of the rod restrictions on Great Lakes trolling anglers. I think it's silly. I think it's silly to limit an individual person in a boat out there to trolling just 3 rods. What does it matter? Got to go back to protecting the resource, like Amy Trotter said, right? So the resource is protected no matter how many rods you use to catch those fish. The resource is protected because you have a size limit. In my case, it's 13 inches on Saginaw Bay walleye, or, that's what I'm dealing with, and 8 fish a day. Doesn't matter. I'm not a scientist, but I can't figure out how it matters how quickly or how you catch those fish, as long as you're doing it legally with hook and line. You're going to go out there and try to catch 8 fish. You're running 3 lines. It's going to take you, you're at a disadvantage, right? Because a charter comes by with 18 rods in the water. He's going to figure out that pattern a lot more quickly than you are by yourself running 3 rods. But what does it matter? Do you think those fish care if they are caught by somebody trolling 6 lines instead of 3? Do you think the resource cares? No. As long as the resource is protected through daily creel limits and size limits, it shouldn't matter how many lines are being used. Every conservation officer I've talked with says they don't want to enforce that. It's a waste of their time. 3 seems to be an arbitrary and capricious number to me. I just don't understand it. So anyway, so that's my thought. So I brought that up to MUCC a couple of years ago. I brought it forward as a member proposal, and it got shot down. Mainly, I think, because I wasn't familiar with the process. I hadn't gone through it before. I hadn't seen it before. I hadn't observed it before. And to be honest with you, I don't think I did a very good job of presenting my proposal. And so I think it got shot down for that reason. I think if I was to go back, do a little better job, maybe reframe my argument, maybe I could get some traction. I think we're going to try a different route this time. I'm working with a couple of other groups on this, and we've come up with an idea, a way to get around this. And I'll just say, I would not be surprised if in a few years here in Michigan, there was a serious conversation about addressing the number of rods for trolling anglers. I'm not talking about tip-ups or ice fishermen or anything like that, but we'll see. We'll see. Seems like I got a lot of things on my plate right now, so I got to be honest, that's not at the top of the list of priorities. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery, sometimes also known as the Big Guy. And so glad to have you along with us. It's hard to believe, as I sit here in the studio, that it's been 3 hours now almost since we started the show. I mean, it flies by. But in my case, if I wasn't talking about the outdoors and asking questions about the outdoors here in the studio, I would likely be doing it in real life. So it's just kind of, it's a blessing to be able to do something at this point in my life that I still enjoy, because I know that's not the case for everybody, and I don't take this opportunity lightly. And I really do have to thank you, because it is you. Well, let me rephrase. First and foremost, God has placed me in this position. But here in this world, it is you who allow me to do this on a day-to-day basis. You watched the TV show, you listened to the radio show, you follow me on social media, and that allows me to be able to continue on doing this. And I'm going to continue on doing this for a while yet. I have no plans, no thoughts about retiring at all. If you've heard the show, you know that it is my preference to wrap up each week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. And guess what? He's here once again, as he almost always is. David, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
Very good. I feel blessed, too, to have been a part of your TV show. I mean, people still talk about it at the restaurant.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been, I don't know, a long time now, and I still hear about that. People say, I missed the show, which listen, I appreciate it when people say that. But honestly, Dave, I don't miss it at all. It was a lot of work. It got to be grueling toward the end there, and the return just wasn't there what it was in the early days.
Uh-huh. So many older ladies told me I went to bed with them every Sunday.
Oh, my God. Let's not go there.
Believe it. I know. So,
now that's because the show aired toward the end late on a Sunday night.
I know it. It's just so.
I just want to make sure everybody knows that's what you're talking about. And actually, that was part of the kiss of death, is that the local stations didn't give it the prominent air times that they did early on. The air cost, the air time, people think, what do they pay you for being on? No, you have to pay them. And the cost just became ridiculous. So it just didn't make sense anymore, Dave.
I don't blame you, So, hey, would you like a smoked barbecue salmon?
I thought you didn't have time for a recipe. That's why I was killing time.
Okay, well, I got a recipe if you want to do a fast one.
No, because we're almost, no, we don't have time now. I want to continue on our original. So listen, let me ask you this. I know you still love to cook, right?
Absolutely.
But does the business of being in the business, does that get to be a grind sometimes?
Occasionally, but 90% or more of the time, I exactly love what I do. There's just no getting around it. I've taught so many people how to cook, and people have told me, you probably taught about 100,000 people how to cook over the TV show and on the radio. And I mean, I've showed some outrageous people how to cook, and they've carried it on. So I feel blessed that I passed on a lot of my knowledge. Well, like you.
And I think you certainly have. And, I still hear about certain recipes. I saw Dave take that phyllo dough or whatever it is, and he did something very cool with it that I'd never thought of doing before. So that is cool.
It is. I feel blessed for what the Lord has given me through your show and through the restaurant. I've only been there 35 years.
Only 35.
Right.
And, every once in a while, this idea comes to me, and then to be honest with you, I get involved in something else and I forget about it. But Dave, we've got so many recipes on video that you've done. Now, some of them are old format and they're 4x3 and they're bad quality and they're not high def like the new stuff is, but doggone it, there's got to be a market for that, even if we just put it up there on YouTube and let people see it.
Well, let's talk about that sometime. We might be able. Remember when Rick Mixter did that video years ago?
Yes.
And that sold pretty good for him, I think. Maybe we could do that again.
Well, now you're talking more work than I want to get involved in at this point.
Okay, never mind.
Can you relate to that too?
We can hire it out.
And so listen, if people want to enjoy your cooking in person, where do we find you?
Well, Oscar and Joey's Roadhouse on the corner of Birch Run Road, Dixie Highway, exit 136, a tenth of a mile east of the interchange.
Dixie Highway,
right,
of course, why I call you Wild Game Chef Dixie Dave Minar.
I remember that day that you dubbed me that. You said, do you mind if I give you a nickname? I said, whatever, Mike, it's your show.
Oh,
all right.
You got a pretty good memory, Dave. Because I don't remember it.
Oh, okay.
All right, so listen, Dave, have a good week. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, talk to you real soon. Good luck.
And let's do that. Let's do that smoked salmon recipe. Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, and he has better memory than I do. That's pretty obvious. But I meant what I said about I appreciate your support. I would encourage you, if you don't mind, swing on over to the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Check out my social media outlets. I'm on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, primarily. Those are the big three that I use for the most part. And my email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can follow my Ontario hunting adventures on my Facebook page and my Instagram feed. And I will talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.